Alright, YouTube, so I've been going through these wires, and what I've come up with is all of these wires here run back to the computer. They're all connected to the computer in one way, shape, or form. They either go to sensors or whatever, but anyway, these wires are in poor shape. Some of the connections are messed up. Some of the wires themselves, like this, are frayed. Some of these wires are burnt, sticking together. In general, this harness is just no good. All these wires are, like even like this one, all these wires are just not worth the effort to sit here and try to make this work. It's just a waste of time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to contact the owner and tell him, let me convert this car to full motor. Let's get rid of the computer system and run this car at full motor. This is a computer-controlled car, but someone before me, I guess his other mechanic, put on a non-computer controlled Holly. But this carburetor has its own set of issues. So you got this carburetor, which already has issues, not communicating with the rest of the car because this is a non-computer carburetor. The computer carburetor is actually this one, which is the one that was on the front floor. But due to the condition of all of these wires, I'm not going to waste time trying to rewire this up, trying to go through it. I think that this car should just be straight motor. I am able to do the conversion to turn it from a computer controlled car to straight motor, and that's what I think I'm going to do. So anyway, I'll contact the owner in a minute with that. So in the meantime, wiring to the side. I mean, you guys look at these wires, look at this stuff. It's just not worth the time. Anyway, everything to the side, wiring to the side. I'm focusing on the exhaust today. So here I have a pair of very rusty hooker headers. Yeah, they're actually hooker. These are a very rusty set of hooker headers. And now somebody's already persuaded these, kind of hit them with a hammer already. It's a couple of spots like that. But for my own peace of mind and to not waste time, I am going to test fit these before I give these a makeover. So basically, these rusty set of headers have to be cleaned up, sanded, primed, cleaned, everything, and then I'm going to repaint them before putting them on the car. These headers are used, and also I think he had them sitting in the back of the El Camino, so I guess they've just been exposed to the weather. So I have to clean all of this up, make these things look like new again. So that's what I'm focusing on today, is the exhaust system, which you guys can see. What I have to do. So anyway, first thing I have to do before I even start that, I'm going to remove the manifolds off both sides and test fit them. Now, some people may not want to do that. They're like, just throw them on, because he told me they came from another El Camino. But the thing is you go through that whole hassle of cleaning these up and making them look good, and then you find out at the end there's a clearance issue. So I rather beat on them. I mean, that may be what this is, but I rather beat on them and get them into place, make sure they fit perfectly before I go through the hassle of restoring these. So that's what I'm about to do. So let me remove these manifolds and all this smog stuff, and I'll cut you guys back on. Alright, YouTube, so I just removed the first manifold. This is the passenger side, the right hand manifold. Although it looks decent, this manifold is no good either. It's cracked. Can't really see it because of the shroud, but you guys see that hole in there? This thing is cracked. This manifold, see? This manifold is in terrible shape. So anyway, I'm in the process now of test fitting the header. Now, although he said they came from an El Camino, I still test fit them, and let me tell you why. So although that dent is there, where somebody started to clearance that, like remember I had to do that on the Monte Carlo, it's still not enough for this car. It's still too close. You see that? So there, and I hope I pick it up, but on this side, you see, it's just too close. It's not allowing any room for travel. You always have to allow some room for suspension travel. You don't want that thing to rub. Generally what happens is all of these bushings are worn, so whenever you have that, there's going to be a lot more play and things are going to move a lot more than if everything was new. So I'm going to actually have to break out the magic marker again and clear that again like I did with the Monte Carlo. So this is why I test fitted before cleaning them up and painting and doing everything. I'm about to do the other side. Also, while I have this apart, we can kind of get a better look at what's going on. So you see I removed the other fuel line, and I'm going to replace this rubber line that goes to the fuel pump just because it's old. I don't know how old it is, but I'm going to put a new one while I have easy access there. So this is the positive battery cable that the fuel line was zip tied to. But you see this section right here with everything? Now one of these is positive and the other one is negative. I have to look to see which is which. But you never want to fold up your cables this way, especially not your battery cables. Generally what happens, if you want to get good current, good ground, you want to keep your cables as straight as possible. What happens is once you start zip tying them and folding them over like this, they heat up. They get hot right in these areas because that current is struggling to push through. It'll still work, but you're not getting the flow like you should be getting because of all the bends. So you want to try to keep your cables as straight as possible. So while I have all of this exposed, oh, this battery tray is gone. But while I have all of this exposed, I'm going to clean up this wiring down here as well. I told you guys I'm going to make this a non-computer car, so I still got to clean up that stuff. But while I have all this open, you know, while I'm doing the exhaust, I'm going to put the, straighten out all these wires, get the cables running like they should, get rid of this thing. This is just here. I just get rid of everything. And also on the wire front, you see, so this would be the socket for the marker light, and then somebody jumped this wire from here. This runs to this. This thing got hairs growing out of it or something. I don't know. These are actually wire strands. Looks like hair coming out of it. They put an eye on it, but you see how this wiring is here? And then they have it go into the headlight wire with a drywall screw holding that in. So I'm assuming this is all supposed to be ground. But this is the kind of stuff that's just ridiculous. So I got to clean all this up. You see, because this is why things don't work. So I'll be tackling this too while I'm under here. But anyway, back to the headers, because that's what this video is about. I got it all in place. I know where I have to clear it. I'm going to pull this one off. I'm going to clear it. I'm going to test fit it one more time. And then I'm going to start cleaning this one up and painting it. And while this one's painting, I'm going to move on to the other side. While this one's drying, I'm going to move on to the other side. So you may say, well, why don't you just paint them both at the same time? I mean, you really could, but I just find it when you're doing something like this, I can only work on one side at a time. So it's a little easier to be more efficient to get one side done. And while that's drying, take the other side off. By the time I get that side off, this side will be dry. I can bolt it off and then move on to the other side. All right, let me get back to work, YouTube. I'll cut you guys back on. Before and after. Now follow me on this journey so I can show you how we got here. Alright YouTube, so I'm cleaning up this header, getting ready to paint it. I've already cleared it. You see? I've already cleared it. So the pipe was not crushed or anything, but it was cleared enough to fit beautifully. So anyway, what I'm working on right now is cleaning them up and prepping them for paint. Now, if you guys see this runner, you see how clean this runner is? Right here, got a little shine too. You see how clean it is? And you see this one. Now, both of these have been touched. The difference is I did this one with a wire wheel. I did this one with a scuff pad. So when I do stuff like this, now I guess the easiest way to do it is to sandblast it, but I don't have a sandblaster because I just don't have a big enough need for it. So for this particular job, I'm using a wire wheel. Now the reason I prefer the wire wheel is because these are the results. So you still have the texture in the metal, you still have all of that, but it gets the rust out of those nooks and crannies. See, if you hit this with the scuff pad, hold on. You hit this with a scuff pad, you're still going to have that, you see? You're still going to have it. You just keep going till your little heart goes crazy. Eventually you'll find a little shine, but, hold on. Hold on, YouTube. Eventually you'll find some clean metal under there. But you see, there's some right there. But it still gets stuck in the little nooks and crannies. So you'll be here all day doing this. So when you have to do a piece that's this big, this takes too long. So what I do, and you guys probably might want to consider this, go to like a flea market or something. So I got this drill from like a yard sale or a flea market or something like 3 years ago. I paid like $2 for it. And then I just put the wire wheel on it. When you do it like this, then you can sit here. It still takes a little time, but at least it goes a little faster. Now, unfortunately, I got to do this whole piece. When I'm done with all of it, I'll then go over it with the pad just to make sure that the surface isn't too smooth. But generally, it still scratches the surface, but it gets the rust out of all the little nooks and crannies, if that's what you want. This is not something that you want to do and then have to turn around and pull these header off to repaint them in a month. This is not something you want to do that. You know what I mean, YouTube? So, anyways, just a little tip. I mean, you guys do what works for you. This is how I do it because I get better results like that as opposed to the scuff pad and this. So, anyway, YouTube, let me finish prepping this one. I'm going to get this one ready for paint. I'm going to prime it. Also, if you're going to paint, always use high temperature stuff. The owner gave me some VHT paint that he wanted to use for the headers, but he didn't give me any primer, so I went out and bought the same brand of primer because you don't want any kind of reaction. You want to try to use the same products if you can. Some stuff is compatible with different, but if they make the same primer as the same brand of paint that you're using, doesn't hurt to use it. But yeah, don't try to cheap out and use regular primer or Walmart primer. Make sure you get a hot, look at this, very high temperature primer. This is like 1300 to 2000 degrees. So that's what these are going to be coated in, and then the paint. Alright, YouTube, so I'll cut you guys back on in a minute. Prime time. It's looking good, looking good. You guys hear the phone? That's what I'm talking about. That's why I can't get nothing done. Anyway, primer's looking good, YouTube. I'm getting ready to throw some color on it. So the owner got flat red. So let's see how this comes out, YouTube. Alright? Get ready to throw on some flat red. I'll cut you guys back on. Alright, so this flat red looks kind of orange, but I guess because it's still wet, so I'm still putting coats. And just in case y'all wondering about the overspray, you can see all the mist pulling it that way. I have the fan pulling it away from the car. I don't want y'all to think I'm getting overspray on the car. That's not happening at all. But anyway, yeah, so this color appears to be kind of orangey, but we'll see what it looks like once it's dry. So, all right, YouTube, let me get back to spraying, and I'll cut you guys back on in a minute. All right? All right. All right, YouTube, so we got the flat red laid out. Looks good. I mean, looks good. So this is flat red. It's laid out. Took a couple of coats to get it covered, but I ended up using the whole can just on this header. So anyway, the header's looking beautiful, but the motor is not ready for this header. See, you see how greasy and grimy this motor is? So that's the stuff I got to clean up now. I got to get rid of all this sludge. I got to clean the carbon out. A lot of that carbon buildup, I'm sure, came from using regular gas. People, don't use 87. Do not use 87. I'll do a video in the future on why you should not use regular gas. But right now, I got to clean this motor up. I got to get rid of all of this dirt and grime and buildup. Get this thing looking like something. So anyway, like I said, I want to change this cable. I want to change this hose. I got to clean up this wire, and I don't even know exactly what's happening over here. So once I get everything done and ready, then I will install that header. But this is not ready for this header to go on. If I was anybody else, probably, I might just throw the header on and call it good. But come on, this is Grant 7. I can't do that, people. I can't do it. I got to clean it up. With all this oil that's run down, I want to pull off these valve covers. I know he had somebody put the valve covers on, but I want to make sure they put on new gaskets. I got to make sure, because there's a lot of oil. And if the guy put this on without even cleaning up this sludge, I want to make sure, I want to see what's under the valve covers. So I want to do all of this before I put those headers on. So that's what I'm going to do now, but I'm going to close out this video. I know you guys wanted to see the header on, but when I'm done cleaning this up, I'll give you another video. You'll probably see the headers when I switch everything over to non-computer controls, and then I'll give you an under hood shot with the headers and everything on. So just so you know, for anybody out there that's doing these headers, the proper procedure, once you get these headers painted like this, you're supposed to put them on the car and let the car run for about, I guess, about 10-15 minutes, and let that paint bake. Let it cure on there, and then you cut it off and let it sit, I guess, about 15-20 minutes, and then start it up for like another 10 minutes and let it run, and that's how you cure header paint. So, all right, YouTube, let me get back to work. I still got to pull off the other side and get the other side pretty. But I just wanted to give you guys an update as to what's going on. As always, I appreciate you watching. Grant 7 Auto Works at newcarsuck.com.